Disney Parks is in hot water with the state of Florida. And as this legal battle heats up between the state of Florida and Disney, that's not the only thing at risk. The parks are not the only thing at risk. And today I want to talk about specifically the Disney Vacation Club. A lot of people want to know about DVC, the Disney Vacation Club, and how it is at risk. And if you are a DVC member, this is absolutely something you should listen into and listen closely to how you may be at risk with this legal battle that Disney has decided to pick with the state of Florida. As always, I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney living abroad right now. I'm in Thailand, and I'm always happy to bring the best information to you on this channel, Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. Of course, I am a Florida attorney, and ironically, when we're today talking about Disney Vacation Club, I did specialize in special district law. It's what I did for 8 years. But what I did after that is, well, it's little known to most people, but actually I worked in the timeshare industry. So this is actually completely within both of my areas of expertise somehow, some way in this weird little world. So I happen to know what I'm talking about when it comes to Disney Vacation Club and when it comes to the special district. So in both topics, I know precisely what I'm talking about here today. So what is Disney Vacation Club? We're gonna have to get into some basics and why it may be at risk. So we're gonna have to lay some foundation for those who may not know, and I'll pop this up here. This is the Disney Vacation Club logo here. So DVC, Disney Vacation Club, and I'm just gonna go ahead and call it DVC, is their form of a timeshare program. Now, a lot of companies have separate subsidiaries, right? They're related entities. Obviously, they're affiliated, but they're separate entities, subsidiaries, that specifically deal with timeshare programs. There's many of out there, Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, they've all got their spin-off programs where they have timeshare brands. So a lot of major brands have timeshare programs and programs where they offer timeshare accommodations for people. Disney is no exception in that. They're neither special nor behind. They're kind of fitting in with their corporate counterparts as one large American corporation. And by the way, a lot of people use Disney as the standard, the corporate standard in an industry. So when we see things happen with Disney, they often echo outside of just the parks, right? Because Disney has movies they do. Disney has timeshares. Disney has a cruise line. So there's a lot of different areas that Disney is engaged in business in, not just purely the parks. So what is a timeshare for those who may not know? Now, a traditional timeshare is a little bit different than what exists today and what DVC is. But just to give you some background, traditionally, old school, back in the day, a timeshare used to mean you would have a specific week at a specific resort, let's say 1 week every year. You could usually buy more than that, but people would typically buy 1 week. So maybe you buy 1 week in Hilton Head, 1 week in Breckenridge, 1 week in Hawaii. Hawaii is in fact famous. Hawaii has a number of timeshares. Folks like to go out there for a week. It's just kind of a Hawaii thing. So you might say, look, I love this resort. I love coming here, but I don't want to pay, for a hotel room every single week. That gets expensive. Well, the people in the timeshare industry said, look, let's bundle this. Let's sell you a week of every single year, and that's going to be a cost savings versus a hotel room. It's going to be a little bit cheaper than a hotel room. Now, there are some catches with that, and there are some ways in which it suddenly becomes far, far, far more expensive than a hotel room. We're going to get to that today. But that's what the advantage of a timeshare is. And let me give you another advantage that people often see for timeshares. Timeshares are often a little bit bigger than hotel rooms. Now, some of them are essentially hotel rooms, and there's no difference between a hotel room. But some of them, look, they have a washer dryer, they have a full kitchen, you can kind of live out of them for a week. So they're a little more homey than you would see in a typical hotel room. And that's the traditional model. Well, it turns out as people kind of, changed over the years, especially with millennials and Gen X, we didn't want to just go the millennial generation, my generation, I'm 36 years old, an elder millennial. We didn't just want to go to one place our entire life. No. We want options. So what they decided to do was getting rid of the traditional model. So they moved over to what's called the point system, timeshare points. Now, how do points work? Now, points are different. Now, typically, you would own that 1 week of time at that resort a year. And by the way, that is a type of real estate interest, and you do pay closing costs on that. We'll get to that later on and how much that costs. But you were essentially having an interest in one specific resort for 1 week. You're essentially a partial owner of that particular property. Well, with the point system, you get rid of that whole ownership thing. In fact, you only really own points in a trust. So you've got this big giant pool of points, which represents a certain number of days in a collection of resorts. So maybe there's 13 resorts or 14 resorts or 7 resorts, and you have points. So let's say you buy 100, 200, 300 points. Well, you would have that number of points to spend at any number of resorts in that collection. Really cool, right? You get flexibility, you get to bounce around. Well, here's the thing, and here's what they don't tell you, is that not all resorts are created equal and not all days are created equal. In fact, some days are worth much more than others. In fact, some days might cost all the points that you have. It might cost you all the points that you bought just for a single day at a resort during the high season. So therefore, they're going to try to sell you more points. They're going to try to sell you larger packages. There's no guarantee that you get a particular week. Remember, in the traditional model, you would be buying 1 week. So let's say you bought July 1st to July 8th. You had that Independence Day weekend. You were locked in forever for Independence Day weekend. You were guaranteed that day. That's not how the point system works. How the point system works is you've got to go ahead, sometimes a whole year ahead of time, and lock down those particular dates. You've got to bid against other people for those dates at that resort. So it's sort of like a Hunger Games if you're really thinking about it in terms of booking ahead of time. And oftentimes these groups, these corporations that are selling points will allow those that buy more points to book further ahead of time, thus incentivizing you to buy more and more and more and more points. Do you get where the grift is coming in here, guys? So that's where you have the modern day system. And in fact, most modern timeshares will operate on point systems. So if you look at any of the major brands, including DVC, the Disney Vacation Club, they operate on point systems. So what are the other costs that are associated with this? Well, it's not just the points. There's 3 separate categories. We're going to review all of these, but we have the purchase price, which is based on cost per points, with the minimum in Disney Vacation Club of being 150 points. Now, of course, we're going to see 150 points does not buy you a lot. In fact, it buys you hardly anything in most places. But they're going to push you, obviously, to buy much more than that. But even at that base amount, even at that low rate of 150 points, that's going to cost you, as you can see here, $32,550 for that amount of points. So even for the baseline, that's like the cheapest possible plan. You're going budget for $32,000. So we're talking new car territory here. Plus you're going to have closing costs because this is a real estate transaction. So just like with buying a home, or selling a home is a type of real estate transaction. And guess who's paying for that? Not Disney, you guys. So you're paying for that minimum of $600. And let me tell you, that is super cheap. Probably going to be looking at $1,000, $2,000 on that side. And then annual dues. And there's a reason why they put these out here monthly. And also, mind you, all of these numbers here they're showing you, yeah, those don't go together. So oftentimes the cheapest one in terms of points, and we're going to get into the cost per points here in a second, but the cheapest one in terms of point costs often has the highest maintenance fees. For example, in Disney Collection, we'll look at Vero Beach. Vero Beach has the cheapest one of the cheapest buy-in rates. But when we look at their maintenance fees, they're much higher. And we'll look at what the maintenance fees, and we'll talk about those specifically later because that's where the risk is. But what you're seeing is there's actually a fourth thing to pay for, and that is loans. And that is the huge way that they cost more than a hotel. Because typically when I book a hotel, I'm not taking out a loan. I am usually paying for a hotel with money I have in the bank. And I'm just paying for it, cash in hand, buying it outright. And a lot of people that get into the benefits of timeshares, they always will say, buy it in cash, buy it in cash. But I've been inside the industry, I know the truth. And the truth is, the majority of folks are financing. They are financing. And guess what? Mickey will give you some credit at a low rate of 10% down with a very happy interest rate. And trust me, those interest rates go up quickly, particularly since you're looking at your credit. This is with the best possible credit, perfect credit score. If you're looking at an average credit to maybe even a below average credit, certainly your interest rates are going to be much higher. And that's where all this math, all this affordability, it just goes out the roof because you're taking out a loan. People don't often factor in the costs of loans because it's fugazi to them. It's air, it doesn't make any sense. So this is another way where Mickey gets you. And by the way, it's not just Mickey. I'm not just picking on DVC here. They do what every other timeshare company does, and they kind of don't talk about the financing component. They just they're always going to focus on the purchase price alone. They're not going to talk about the financing. They're not going to talk about the closing costs. They're not going to talk about the annual dues. They're just going to talk about the price per point in the purchase price, which is what they want you to focus on. But we're going to go in a little bit deeper today. So let's look at, this is Alani, and I'm not pronouncing that right. People who are native Hawaiians can correct me on that. But Alani on Oahu in Hawaii at the Disney Vacation Club Villas. These are the 2024 vacation points per night. So this is what you would need to book a week during these travel periods. And obviously you can see there are peak times here versus non-peak times. And there is a spread here. So it costs about 40 points more to book during peak versus non-peak. But let's say you bought an 150 point package. Well, that's going to only get you the basic hotel room in the at this resort for DVC during a peak time. Well, let's say, and for 1 week alone. So you're just talking 1 week, right? Now, let's say you wanted to get a 1-bedroom villa. You've got 5 people. 4 is not enough, right? Well, that's going to cost you 300 points. That's double. Let's say you wanted that grand villa. Let's say you want to go all the way up. Let's say you're bringing your family. That's going to cost you 1,288 points. Now, you might ask, how much is that? Well, if you do the math at about $217 per point, right? So we're just doing it based on that number. And by the way, this is the Disney Vacation Club website. I am not making this up. This is their own points. If you do that math on roughly 1,300 points, well, that's almost $300,000. That's right, $300,000 for the ability to stay at a resort for 1 week. At that point, listen, I got land in Hawaii to sell you for that point. And mind you, this is just to book it. This does not include the annual fees. So let's get into that part. So this is just upfront, what you are paying upfront and what you're probably taking out a loan on, because most people do not have either $30,000 or $300,000 to spend on a resort, on a timeshare. So then we get into maintenance fees. Now, maintenance fees or annual dues, what they want to tell you they're for is they want to focus on them for, they're for unit upgrades, they're for beautification, amenities like pools and emergencies. But the one thing that they leave out, and they often don't mention to you, is that they're for taxes as well. And this is where the huge risk is, particularly with the fight with Florida. But let's get into this. So why am I talking about the costs for maintenance fees? Now, this is something you have to pay every single year. If you do not pay your annual dues, your annual maintenance fees, they're like a tax. And guess what? You don't pay the tax man, what happens? The tax man comes a-calling. So if you don't pay those taxes, those fees, you cannot use that unit. You are barred from using that unit. You do not get to use those points. By the way, another fun fact about the points is, yeah, sometimes you can bank them for a year or two, but in a lot of cases, particularly during Corona, people found out that those points were more use it or lose it. And in fact, they might not have been able to book where they wanted to book the entire year. They might have actually lost out on the intended use of their points. So with maintenance fees, you've got to pay these every single year. Now, how much are these? Well, and this is just based on a basic amount of 1,000 a year. These are, anywhere between, these are based on how many points you buy, right? So if you've got 150 points, it's whatever the rate is times 150. So if it's 10, right, times, 150, there you go. You've got your $1,500 maintenance fees. You know what I'm saying? So if you got 300, it might be more than that. Might be $30, et cetera, et cetera. Or sorry, $3,000. I'm a lawyer. Math is not my strong point, but you're getting the drift here. It's not all up front. You are paying those fees over time for as long as you've got that timeshare. And mind you, one thing about timeshares is you cannot just sell them. There are limitations on resale, on how you sell those points, how you get rid of those points. So they're not easy to sell. It's not like a piece of property you just put out a sign and just get a buyer. There's steps. Oftentimes you have to go through the company itself or go through an authorized reseller. You can't just do it on eBay or on your own. It's not that easy, not that simple. But you can see over here that the average, and this is just in the timeshare industry, the average maintenance fees go up 4% a year. So within 10 years, within a decade, you're already paying 48% more. Kind of crazy. But here's the thing about Disney Vacation Club. You can see here, and these are the actual numbers from 2023. A lot of these annual fees are going up more than 4%. Even at Bay Lake, see Bay Lake Tower, 5.2%. Grand Floridian, 5.4%. Hilton Head, almost 7% increase. Over here, Vero Beach, a average of a 5% increase, but this is actually combining two separate rates. The early buyers get a lower rate than the new buyers. For the new buyers, it actually is closer to 9% increase. So there's a serious cost for folks there. Look at Vero Beach. The points for Vero Beach are actually really cheap to buy, but they have $12.85 per point. So remember, at 100 points, that would be 1,200. Of course, there's no 100-point package, right? You're looking maybe at a 200-point package. You're going to double that, 2,400 per month. That's a significant amount. We're talking a significant amount of money here for maintenance fees. So mind you, when they show you those cheap teaser prices, those are going to go up. But here's the killer, guys. Here's where this is really going to be painful for everybody. And I want to stress this. In this fight against Florida, there are going to be costs. The costs within the Disney parks in Florida is going to go up. So all of these properties, and you can see actually that when we go to the property list, Animal Kingdom, you got Bay Lake Towers, right? You've got the Grand Floridian. You've got Old Key West, Polynesian, Saratoga Springs. These are within Disney. So if the property is within Reedy Creek, within Disney, the taxes are probably going to go up. And there's two things that people should be concerned about, really concerned about. Number one is that the district, which is now controlled by the state, is going to raise taxes because Disney's been keeping them artificially low for too long. So those taxes are going to go up to do things the right way. So those taxes are probably going to go up. But on top of that, so number one is the taxes are probably going to go up. Number two is that Disney may use this as an excuse to jack up the maintenance fees even more. See, what they're going to do is they're going to point the finger at the new district and say, oh, look, the evil state is making us raise our taxes here. Oh my gosh, it's blame DeSantis. But what they'll do is they'll say, let's use this as an excuse to just double the fee. Let's just double the fee. Let's just double the fees. Let's not tell anybody. And they'll bake in extra cost here, extra increases in the coming years. That's something I am speculating. Of course, Could be wrong, but I'm speculating that's something they might do because it's a convenient excuse. Just like during Corona, a lot of people use it as an excuse to lay people off. Oh, it's Corona. We're having record losses, even though they're having huge profits. Let's just let people off. Let's just let people off. So I am seeing this as a huge risk for Disney Vacation Club. If you are a DVC member, let me know. Are you happy with DVC? Are you sad with DVC? Would you buy DVC right now? Let me know in the comments below. Look to talk to you guys later. Take care. Peace.